Hi, this is Samir Zulfikar, and you're watching Social Sciences. Ever since the first people traded one item from another, there has been some form of economy in the world. It is how people optimize what they have to meet their wants and needs. The economy is the institution that provides for the production and distribution of goods and services, which people in every society needs. Sometimes they can provide these things for themselves, and sometimes they rely on others to provide them. When people rely on others for goods or services, they must have something to exchange, such as currency in industrialized societies or others goods or services in non-industrial societies. The customs surrounding exchange and distribution of goods and services shape societies in fundamental ways. Economy is one of human society's earliest social structures. Our earliest forms of writing, such as Sumerian clay tablets, were developed to record transactions, payments, and debts between merchants. As societies grow and change, so do their economies. The economy of a small farming community is very different from the economy of large nation with advanced technology. Dominant economic systems of the modern era have been capitalism and socialism, and there have been many variations of each system across the globe. Countries have switched systems as their rulers and economic fortunes have changed. For example, Russia has been transitioning to a market based economy since the fall of communism in that region of the world. Vietnam, where the economy was devastated by the Vietnam War, restructures to a state run economy in response, and more recently has been moving towards a socialist style market economy. In the past, other economic systems reflected the societies that formed them. Many of these earlier systems lasted centuries. These changes in economies raise many questions for sociologists. What are these older economic systems? How did they develop? Why did they fade away? What are the similarities and differences between older economic systems and modern ones? Our earliest ancestors lived as hunter and gatherers. Small groups of extended families roamed from place to place looking for means to subsist. They would settle in an area for a brief time when there were abundant resources. They hunted animals for their meat and gathered wild fruits, vegetables, and seeds. They ate what they caught or gathered as soon as possible because they had no way of preserving or transporting it. Once the resources of India ran low, the group had to move on, and everything they owned had to travel with them. Our food reserves only consisted of what they could carry. Many sociologists contend that hunter and gatherers did not have a true economy because groups did not typically trade with other groups due to the scarcity of goods. The first true economy is right when people started raising crops and domesticating animals, although there is still a great deal of disagreement among archaeologists as to the exact timeline. Our research indicates that agriculture began independently at different times in several places around the world. Agriculture began with the simplest of technologies, for example, a pointed stick to break up the soil, but really took off when people harnessed animals to pull an even more efficient tool for the same task, that is, a plow. With this new technology, one family could grow enough crops not only to feed themselves but others as well. Knowing there would be abundant food each year as long as crops were tended led people to abandon the nomadic life of hunter gatherers and settle down to farm. The improved efficiency in food production meant that not everyone had to toil all day in the fields. As agriculture grew, new jobs emerged along with new technologies. Excess crops needed to be stored, processed, protected, and transported. Farming equipment and irrigation systems needed to be built and maintained. Wild animals needed to be domesticated. Economies began to develop because people now had goods and services to trade. More people specialized in non farming jobs. Villages grew into towns and then into cities. Urban areas created the need for administrators and public servants. Disputes over ownership, payments, debts, compensation for damages, and the like led to the need for laws and courts. And the judges, clerks, lawyers, and police who administered and enforced those laws. At first, most goods and services were traded as gifts or through bartering between small social groups. Exchanging one form of goods or services for another was known as bartering. This system only works when one person happens to have something the other person needs at the same time. To solve this problem, people developed the idea of a means of exchange that could be used at any time, that is, money. Money refers to an object that a society agrees to assign a value to so it can be exchanged for payment. In early economies, money was often objects like cowrie shells, rice, barley, or even rum. Precious metals quickly became the preferred means of exchange in many cultures because of their durability and portability. Early legal codes established the value of money and the rates of exchange for various commodities. They also established the rules for inheritance, fines, as penalties for crimes, and how property was to be divided and taxed. A symbolic interactionist would note that bartering and money are systems of symbolic exchange. Monetary objects took on symbolic meaning, one that carries into our modern day use of checks and debit cards. As city states grew into countries and countries grew into empires, their economies grew as well. When large empires broke up, their economies broke up too. The governments of newly formed nations sought to protect and increase their markets. They financed discovery to find new markets and resources all over the world, unsharing in a rapid progression of economic development. Colonies were established to secure these markets, and wars were financed to take over territory. These ventures were funded in part by raising capital from investors who were paid back from the goods obtained. Governments and private citizens also set up large trading companies that financed their enterprises around the world by selling stocks and bonds. Governments try to protect their share of the markets by developing a system called mercantilism. Mercantilism is an economic policy based on accumulating silver and gold by controlling colonial and foreign markets through taxes and other charges. The resulting restrictive practices and exacting demands included monopolies, bans on certain goods, high tariffs, and exclusivity requirements. Mercantilistic governments also promoted manufacturing, and with the ability to fund technological improvements, they helped create the equipment that led to the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution modernized the world. With growing resources came growing societies and economies. While many people's lives were improving, the Industrial Revolution also birthed many societal problems. There were inequalities in the systems, owners amassed vast fortunes, while laborers, including young children, toiled for long hours in unsafe conditions. Post industrial societies, also known as information societies, have evolved in modernized nations. One of the most valuable goods of the modern era is information. Those who have the means to produce, store, and disseminate information are leaders in this type of society. Scholars understand the development of different types of societies, like agricultural, industrial, and post industrial, is by examining their economies in terms of four sectors, that is, primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary, and quaternary. Each has a different focus. The primary sector extracts and produces raw materials like metals and crops, and the secondary sector turns those raw materials into finished goods, and the tertiary sector provides services, childcare, healthcare, and money management. Finally, the quaternary sector produces ideas. These include the research that leads to new technologies, the management of information, and society's highest level of education and the arts. In underdeveloped countries, the majority of the people work in the primary sector. As economies develop, more and more people are employed in the secondary sector. In well-developed economies such as those in the United States, Japan, and Western Europe, the majority of the workforce is employed in service industries. Now we are going to discuss major economic systems of the world. Capitalism is an economic system in which natural resources and the means of producing goods and services are privately owned. Capitalism is based on private ownership of the property in the pursuits of profit in a competitive marketplace. Capitalism results in greater productivity, higher overall standard of living, greater income inequalities, and freedom to act according to self interest. The examples of capitalism can be seen in the United States and Europe and other European countries. On the other hand, socialism is grounded in collective ownership of productive property through government control of the economy. Socialism results in less productivity, a lower overall standard of living, and less income inequality, freedom from basic want. And examples can be seen in the People's Republic of China and Venezuela. They have mostly socialist economies. Under welfare capitalism is the one in which government may own some large industries such as transportation and the mass media. Most industries privately owned but highly regulated by the government. And high taxation of the rich helps pay for extensive government services for all. Examples are Sweden and Italy. They are the welfare capitalist economies. And under state capitalism, government works in partnership with large companies by supplying financial assistance, controlling foreign imports, and examples are Japan and Singapore. They have the state capitalist economies. It is no secret that we are living in tough economic times. Unemployment has been high, earning a living wage is harder than it used to be, and public confidence in a secure future has taken a hit. As C. Wright Mills might have said, the problems we face as individuals are issues that are deeply rooted in economy. Now it is your task to ask yourself in present COVID situation, what changes in economy can create challenges for today's labor force and how we can safeguard people from such challenging situations. Leave your answer in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel.